Jim, your question is completely flawed. There is no such thing as same-sex marriages. Okay? Now, to answer the practical question, and that is, will I perform marriages? I can't imagine a more happy, joyous thing that a judge could do than to perform marriages. Now, the Texas Family Code says that a marriage, especially I think it's section 2.01 of the Family Code, says that a marriage is between a man and a woman and you can't issue a license to a same-sex couple. If you look at the Supreme Court's crazy decision in Obergefell, where 5 justices basically appointed themselves as super legislators, there is nowhere in that decision, except in Justice Roberts' dissent, where it says that a county has to issue a marriage license to a same-sex couple. It is not in the majority opinion. That is the liberal media that is basically perpetrating that lie on all of us. And so, you know, it's up to our county clerk how he handles marriage licenses, but I think that I've made my position pretty clear how I'll handle it.
Stephen?
I'm going to be so busy trying cases that I won't have time to do marriages, period. As a judge of the 9th District Court, I will not be doing weddings because I believe that the time is better spent in dockets moving cases.
That was going to be my answer.
I thought we had something in common.
You know, as long as the rules that have been handed down say that we as judges either have to perform no marriages or we have to perform any marriage that comes before us, I'll be very busy trying cases and working out the docket.
Thank you. John?
John Wirtz, Montgomery County Tea Party. Do any of you have any liens, judgments, and/or accusations that have been filed against you? And specifically, Mr. Grant, there was a complaint filed with the Texas Bar Association Office of Disciplinary Counsel last week alleging you broke the Code of Judicial Conduct by joint campaigning endorsements of other candidates as well as comments and articles posted on social media. Do you take the contention here that rules are made to be broken? And Mr. Yalla, you had a $7.5 million judgment against you back in July of 2012 for an alleged fraud for conspiring to take possession of 3 hospitals and misleading investors during the takeover. Sir, what's the disposition of that case? And also, you claim to be a constitutional conservative. Why is your name on donations to Obama, Hillary, and various Democratic organizations?
And this panel starts with the only person not mentioned, Ms. Baird.
None that I'm aware of.
Bill?
None that I'm aware of, but I guess I need to address Mr. Wirtz's accusation. And I think it's really unfortunate that the lowest common denominator in politics these days has descended on the race of the 9th District Court. One of Ms. Ben's supporters has filed a complaint against me, and that complaint is baseless. It's unethical for it to have been publicized. I have no doubt that at the end of the day it will be dismissed as being meritless. And my campaign's not going to do that kind of stuff. And I know Eric Yallick and I have committed that we're not going to run our campaigns in a positive manner. And we're going to focus on the fact that I have the most experience, that I have the most involvement in our community, and that I have dedicated my life to criminal law and serving this community, and that's why I'm the best candidate for this race.
Mr. Yellen?
Well, I want to actually take it one step farther than Phil Grant just took it, and that is this. I saw a press release about Bob Bagley filing this complaint against Phil Grant. It's just obviously politically based. There's no basis to it. It's inappropriate, and it is exactly the type of thing that proves that what is the so-called Montgomery County Tea Party is not conservative, they're not Republican, and they're hardly a Tea Party. And that's part of the problem in this election is that there's a lot of misinformation. Now, Mr. Wertz asked a question about the $7.2 million judgment against me. I have never had a judgment against me in my life. Not in my life. My wife and I pay our bills by return mail. We have done that for 31 years. We've had credit scores in the range of about 840 as a result of the way that we handle all of our financial affairs. And this is the type of garbage that I hope we will not see in any political race, let alone a district court race. And so, you know, I'm sorry, Mr. Grant, that a question like that is even asked to you. It's shameful, and quite frankly, the person who ought to be apologizing is Mr. Wertz.
Next two questioners will be John Pettit, followed by Betty Anderson.
Hi, folks.
How you doing?
I'm John Pettit. 24 years ago, I myself was a candidate for this very bench that you see. So I salute each of you in your efforts to become the judge of this court. A long, long time ago, on the border of Texas, I was an elected district attorney. My district ran from just north of Laredo almost to the Big Bend National Park. I served with, I think, a certain degree of distinction and hopefully honor in that office. And I am concerned about fairness. And I want to know, Mr. Grant, you spoke to your involvement in the Michael Morton Act. But I want to know also, Mr. Grant, you yourself was employed by the district attorney of Williamson County, Texas, where this horrendous act occurred. And I want to hear your explanation for that, sir. Please.
Sure. I was employed by the Williamson County District Attorney's Office, but I wasn't employed during the time that any of that litigation was taking place. But since then, I've been here in Montgomery County, and I've been proud to work for a district attorney that I believe is as ethical as any other district attorney in the land. And shortly after I came to work here, I was offered the job of first assistant in Williamson County, and I turned it down. And I turned it down because I was working for a man that I trusted and I believed in. You know, being a prosecutor, sir, is about doing the right thing. And what happened to Mr. Morton is an absolute tragedy, and it was an honor to work on the legislation that revamped the discovery process in the state of Texas so that hopefully something like what happened to Mr. Morton never happens again. I did work in Williamson County, but I didn't have anything to do with that case. And if there's ever anything that I can do, if I don't win this race, and I continue to be employed in the district attorney's office, to further the interest of making this system more transparent and more fair, I'm going to do that every time. Because it's a prosecutor's worst nightmare to wake up and find out that because of some new DNA evidence, or because of a change in the technology, or because a lab technician wasn't doing their job right, that we've inadvertently convicted somebody that is not guilty of a crime. And I will do everything in my power as the first assistant district attorney and as a prosecutor to fight that kind of thing and to do everything we can to build as many safeguards into the system as possible so that we can make this the fairest and most just system in the world, which it is.
Mr. Yalek?
Thanks. John, it's good to see you again. I know you've been living in South Texas for a while. Tammy and I moved here right after you were in that Republican primary, as I recall, with Judge Edwards and Judge Coker. And the county has changed a lot. And one thing that hasn't changed, and that is that voters still need to do a lot of research, and they really need to judge the character, especially of people who run for judge. And I think that one of the real problems that we have in especially our current society is that there is so much misinformation. You know, I know Phil Grant fairly well. I've had the opportunity to meet Ms. Bim in the last few weeks, and they really do seem like nice people. And I'm not saying that I can, vouch for everything that they've done, but the reality is that when you meet people and you talk to them and you ask them tough questions to their face, just like y'all are doing tonight, that's a good way to judge people. Reading stuff on the internet, reading stuff sometimes in the newspaper, is not accurate information. And where it's really damaging that I've seen is, especially in the last few weeks, this so-called little group called the Montgomery County Tea Party is what they're doing is they're publishing trash on the internet that is going to be there for a long, long time. And so let's suppose that Phil Grant or Eric Yalek wins the Republican nomination and has to run for re-election for some office or runs for some other office 4 years from now. How is it going to help the Republican Party for a Tea Party to have published the type of garbage that they've put on the internet forever? It's a real shame, and it's misinformation, and it's the type of thing that we do not need. And I remember President Reagan, when he was running for office, he made it real clear. You need to really investigate people, not the garbage that people put in the media.
Thank you. Ms. Bim?
I think that I would like to take a moment to ask for you all to, when you get home, Google Michael Morton and read a little bit about his story. Because his case is an excellent case that goes to show where courts can go horribly wrong and how lives can be stolen. There have been over 1,000 people in the United States that have been exonerated by DNA evidence. And we really must applaud district attorneys who do the right thing and law enforcement officers who do the right thing. And we must pray for people who are exonerated, that their hearts would be healed from what they have been through. The question really comes down to, how can you be fair? And for you, the voter, how do you know which one of us is the best person for the job when the primary requirement of the job is to be fair? One of the hardest things about running for judge is that we don't really get to have much of a platform. We can't tell you what we would do. And so I would ask each and every one of you who are here tonight, the best that you can do is to look at our resumes and decide who you think is qualified to do the job. And then you have to look at our hearts. You have to look at our hearts and really try to determine whether we are running for the right reasons. You have to determine whether you think that I will treat each and every person who comes into the courtroom fairly. Whether I will use my independent judgment in order to make decisions. And whether I will make decisions based upon what is right for the people of Montgomery County, and not based upon what is right for someone else or for some other group or for some other elected official. I would ask that you look at each of us, and you know what, I would encourage you to do your research. We each went through a vetting process with another group where we were videotaped. You can Google us, you can do all of those things. But really try to learn as much as you can about us, because this is an important job and it's a big decision. And I'm asking for your vote because I am the right person for the job.
Thank you. Okay, our panel has done an excellent job of responding to the questions tonight. We really appreciate that. And our purpose is for you to be able to have opportunity to ask them questions. So I'm going to do something very painful. Number one, that this was the last question. Number two, I'm cutting it off before the leader of the Montgomery County Eagle Forum gets a chance to ask her question, so that you will have enough time and we'll have enough time for the next panel. So let's just take about a 5-minute break.
Nope. That was the closing.
Oh, sorry, you do get closing statements. And keeping the same order, we'll start with Mr. Grant.
I answered that
And then
one
Eric.
first. It's Eric's turn.
You want me to go?
This is closing statements. not-
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for those tough questions. I know there's a lot of strong feelings about this race and about criminal justice in general, so I appreciate the fact that there's a lot of emotions sometimes in the things that we do, because we make very serious decisions. People's life and people's freedoms are always in the mix. Michael Morton spent 25 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit, and that is an absolute tragedy. But we still have the best system in the world when it comes to criminal justice. And I think Montgomery County has the best jurors I've ever seen in my practice all over the state. And I look forward to representing this county as your judge in the 9th District Court. And when you're asking yourself, why should I trust this guy? Why should I believe in this guy? Well, I want to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, that your leaders in this community trust me already. Your state leaders, Marquillo, Brandon Creighton, all your state legislatures have my cell phone number on speed dial. And they have called me in the middle of the night. They've called me when they're on the floor and they're about to debate a bill dealing with criminal justice matters. And I'm the guy that they call to get information and to get an idea of how a bill like that's going to impact this local community. Because they trust me, and they trust my judgment, and they know I'm going to give them the real pros and the real cons. And I'm going to be straight with them, and I'm going to tell them if this hurts the police, or if this hurts the prosecution, if this aids in fairness and equity in the system, if this is right or wrong, or a good bill or a bad bill. These people trust me. Steve Toth, who's in the room, has called me on numerous occasions. Cecil Bell, a lot of the other legislators that represent this area. They trust me, and I think you ought to as well. Again, I'm the only candidate in this race that's board certified in criminal law. I've got the most trial experience. I've tried the most serious cases. And nothing that comes before me, ladies and gentlemen, God forbid you ever end up in the courtroom as a defendant or as a victim of a crime, is going to surprise me. I will not embarrass this county with my behavior on the bench. I will follow the law and not be a subject of numerous newspaper articles about not following the law. I'm going to follow the law. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to represent your values and the United States and Texas constitutions. I'm going to do the right thing every day in that courtroom, and you can count on me. I'd appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
You know, when I first entered this race on December the 14th, what this race looked like to me, standing still as an outsider, was, and I'm sorry to say this to both of you, Phil Grant versus anti-Phil Grant. And, or you could say the prosecutor versus the defense lawyer. And I found that very disappointing. And I'm not criticizing either of the people who are running for this race besides me. But my point is that judges need to follow the law. And so one of the first questions you need to judge as a voter is this a person who has knowledge of the law and who has knowledge how to reform the courthouse, how to administratively run an efficient court and an efficient government operation so that the taxpayers are not the ones who are taking it on the chin. And I think that my experience both as an attorney, as a businessman in this community, as a civic leader in this community, and also as a reformer of the Montgomery County Hospital District shows that I'm capable of doing those things. But then the question is, does this person have the right demeanor? Does this person have a fair mind? Is this person someone who has taken one side or the other in certain types of litigation over an entire career? And it's not only that. I mean, I want to make it clear, you can be a prosecutor your entire career and still be a fair-minded person. That's not the issue. But what I mean is this someone who is specifically beholden to certain special interests? I mean, already in this race, the involvement of the bail bondsmen, who have a very specific financial interest in this race, they've made it pretty clear who they want elected as a judge. And that really does raise some concerns, I think, for the voters in this race. That's one of the reasons that I'm not taking donations. That's one of the reasons that I think that it's so important that you as voters determine who really represents your conscience, who will follow the law and not worry about, is this my friend who's given me a $2,500 campaign contribution? Is this the bail bondsman who went out and trashed my opponent in the election? That's what we need to avoid in politics, but where we really need to avoid it is in the courtroom, because the truth is is that politics has no business in the courtroom. And that's why I'm running on a platform of justice, not politics, and that's why I asked for your vote in the March Republican primary.
As I said earlier, judges are called upon to be fair and impartial. And if I am elected, I will be independent of special interest groups and other elected officials. I will work hard to implement efficiencies that are used all over the state of Texas to improve the case disposition rate in the 9th District Court and to try to help ease jail overcrowding. I will vigorously and passionately defend our laws and our Constitution. I will not legislate from the bench. But most of all, I promise to you that I will do justice. I will love mercy while I am on the bench, and I will walk humbly in service to you, the people of Montgomery County, and to who is my final authority, which is my God. We need judges who are willing to stand up for what is right, who are willing to be courageous in the face of sometimes great opposition. And that is what I am here to do, and that is why I am asking for your vote. We are conservative, law-abiding, and compassionate people. And I want to bring that sensibility to the bench in the 9th District Court. Having been both a prosecutor and a defense lawyer, you can know that I can see both sides because I have been on both sides. You can trust that the 9th District Court is in good hands. I am passionate about the law. I am passionate about our freedoms. And I am passionate about making sure that each and every person who comes before me as judge of the 9th District Court walks away believing and knowing that they were treated fairly and that they got the fair shake that they deserved in our system. And that's why we have the best system. That's why I'm asking for your vote. When you go to the polls on March 1st, our race will be on the 3rd column on the 1st page. And all you need to remember in the 9th District Court is to vote for them and not for him. Thank you for coming.